Greetings, everyone. My name is John McPeak. I am currently the Maintenance and Material Control Officer for VAQ 138. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Expeditionary Squadron Officer Assignment Optimization Plan. Expeditionary squadrons routinely suffer from lengthy material movement delays, problematic hazardous material sourcing, cargo scheduling issues, and funding account issues while deployed. Leaders are often left wondering what can be done to fix these issues and improve squadron performance. Expeditionary squadron officer staffing resembles that of a seagoing squadron, with the addition of a logistics officer. Seagoing squadrons, unlike expeditionary squadrons, have the luxury of using the ship's company to support their material movement, hazardous material, cargo, and funding account needs. Expeditionary squadron leaders often complain that their officers should be able to perform like their seagoing peers, but the leaders fail to grasp that the different environment of expeditionary operations requires a different approach. To get a better understanding of the current situation, I'll quickly explain the officers involved and their duties in an expeditionary squadron. There is the Maintenance and Material Control Officer, MMCO, a ground officer, the Quality Assurance Officer, QAO, a ground officer, and the Logistics Officer, LOGZO, a pilot. In order to properly understand the personnel involved, you need to recognize the difference between pilots and ground officers. Ground officers, like the MMCO and QAO, are primarily focused with the programs and duties that are required in order to support flight operations. Pilots, like the LOGZO, are primarily concerned with flying their missions. The MMCO is a ground officer responsible for managing the maintenance of all assigned aircraft, as well as supervising the maintenance control, phase maintenance, and weight and balance programs. In an expeditionary squadron, the MMCO takes on the additional duties of material movement and funding accounts due to the lack of a material control officer. In a seagoing squadron, the QAO position is filled by a pilot, who is responsible for the oversight of the Quality Assurance Division. In an expeditionary squadron, the QAO position is filled by a ground officer, which leaves them undertasked due to their experience. In an expeditionary squadron, the LOGZO is a pilot who coordinates airlift requirements and the additional duty of scheduling cargo movements due to the lack of an MCO. Since their primary focus is on flying aircraft, their secondary assignment as LOGZO often gets neglected at the expense of squadron performance. Given what we know about the unique requirements of an expeditionary squadron and the burdens placed on its officers, there is a clear solution that properly extracts the total potential of all officers involved by adequately tasking all officers without overtasking and ensuring that the duties are within the officer's capabilities. In order to make an informed decision about a way to optimize expeditionary squadron performance, there are two important but often overlooked facts to consider. Not all officer positions are being utilized, and not all existing departments are being properly tasked. The Material Control Officer, or MCO, position is filled by a ground officer who is responsible for expediting material movements, scheduling cargo movements, and managing funding accounts. The MCO makes up for the lack of support that an expeditionary squadron does not get from the carrier like their seagoing counterparts. In a seagoing squadron, the operations department is responsible for coordinating the airlift requirements to move personnel to and from detachment and deployment locations, and it is already sufficiently manned and trained to handle these requirements for an expeditionary squadron. Given what we know about the unique requirements of an expeditionary squadron and the burdens placed on its officers, there is a clear solution that properly extracts the total potential of all officers involved by adequately tasking all officers without overtasking and ensuring that the duties are within the officer's capabilities. The optimized plan is to use the same personnel that you already have, but in a different way to get the most from them. The MMCO will remain the same. The old QAO will now be the MCO, and the old LOGZO will now be the QAO. The operations department will handle the logistic requirements. The MMCO will be free to manage the scheduled and unscheduled maintenance of all assigned aircraft and equipment, as well as supervising the maintenance control, phase maintenance, and weight and balance programs, without the additional burdens they once had, which can only lead to increased squadron performance. The new MCO will be adequately tasked with expediting material movements, sourcing and stocking hazardous material, scheduling cargo movements, and managing funding accounts, instead of being underutilized as the QAO. The new QAO will be free to primarily focus on training, qualifying, mission planning, and flying their missions, because the amount of time that they are required to spend overseeing quality assurance is minimal. The Operations Department, already sufficiently manned and trained to handle these requirements for an expeditionary squadron, is able to coordinate the airlift requirements to move personnel to and from deployment locations without the delays that the squadron dealt with when those duties took a backseat to the LOGSO's pilot duties. Now that the officer assignments more closely align with the individual's capabilities, and no one officer is overburdened while the others are underburdened, it is time to look at how these changes will positively impact overall squadron performance. Research suggests that a realignment of duties will offer a more achievable workload to overtasked officers and allow others to work to their full potential. The suggested changes will increase the squadron's readiness, safety, deployability, and fiscal stewardship, all while allowing its pilots to refocus their attention on airspace domination and lethality. Additionally, the pilot now assigned to QAO duties will gain valuable leadership experience in a more achievable position with less risk of failure. While research supports the suggested distribution of duties as the most efficient for officer and squadron success, individual and unit performance should be monitored to determine if the right personnel are in each position and whether or not their assigned duties are optimal for success. The standard officer assignment structure in the expeditionary squadrons creates suboptimal performance. Research suggests that a realignment of the duties will ultimately increase the squadron's readiness, safety, deployability, and fiscal stewardship, all while allowing its pilots to refocus their attention on airspace domination.